Everyone is doing great. Oh, got it. Gosh, gonna turn out. Hope that this is working. Welcome so much to our discussion today about our exciting partnership between MLD and NORD and the FDA. And we have some wonderful folks coming to talk to you. We have Lexi, mom of Axel, who is a member of the home study. We have Hussein from the FDA, who will be talking about why the FDA is doing the study, and Josie Hensley, who is our kind of research coordinator, who will be talking and answering questions from all of you who are listening on Facebook. So hello from a very wet Philadelphia. I wanted to explain why this partnership with the FDA is really, really so important and really so exciting. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to go to a NORD meeting when NORD meetings were in person. And I got to speak to some folks at the FDA, and I have to say, a little frustrated. I felt like, we had research into a gene therapy for MLD, and I was really impatient about getting these new therapies, the enzyme replacement therapy and gene therapy, to our patient community. And I spoke to an official from the FDA who listened very calmly and said, I tell folks when they come to us and they ask us, how can I get a treatment for my loved one's disease? We at the FDA, we're not trying to stop people. We're not trying to stop progress. We're not trying to prevent science from happening. We want the breakthroughs there. We want to see treatments for patients, especially young children, who are overwhelmingly impacted by a devastating disorder like MLD. But what we need is data. What we need is really, really good data. While people focus on money for research, we need to understand the disease, have really, really good data, so we don't need huge clinical trials with thousands of people, which is obviously impossible for MLD. We need to know that the science is good, it's safe, and it's changing the lives of patients. So that's why the FDA and NORD reached out to the MLD community to ask us to help with this really exciting, innovative project where patient voices and scientists and regulators could actually work together to get the data they need to get therapies for MLD patients to us faster. A lot of us on this call today, or this Facebook Live show, won't be able to benefit from those therapies, but by joining the home study, by sharing your stories, by talking about what it means to have MLD, by teaching the FDA how terrible this disease is, what it does to our children, what it does to our family, we can change the future for our community. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to hand it over to the amazing Lexi Worth and Axel, who will talk a little bit, or is it Hussein? Sorry, is it Hussein or Lexi? I think it's Hussein. Oh, Hussein, I'm sorry. Hussein from the FDA will now continue this discussion about why this project is so important. So I'm just going to shut off now, right? Let Hussein take over.
Thank you so much, Maria. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and to speak with you, and very honored to be with this very special group of people. My name is Hussein Azuddin, and I work at the Office of Biostatistics and Epidemiology at the Center for Biologics. And as Maria mentioned, a very important part of approving products at the FDA is having the data that supports the efficacy or how effective these treatments are for the patients that they are indicated for. So it's very important for us to be able to see the data that supports this. Of course, in normal conditions, we ask for randomized clinical trials, and we ask for a certain number of people to be enrolled in these studies, and we require a treatment arm or a treatment group, and we require a control group, a group that doesn't get the treatment, and this, of course, is randomized. And we understand the challenges of something like this in the rare disease community. And that's why we are looking into methods and design settings that allow us to expedite or help the development of products for rare diseases and rare conditions. One of the things that we are exploring here is conducting these natural history studies to allow the reviewers and the FDA decision makers to understand how the disease progresses, understand the difficulties that the patients are going through, the caregivers, and being able to compare this to data submitted that's related to a specific treatment or cure that's being under review. And as Maria mentioned here, the most important thing here is that the data is of high quality, meaning that the data doesn't have to be a lot of data, it just has to be the correct data. The data has to be fit for its purpose. And that's why we collaborated with NORD to establish this home study to look at the natural history of metachromatic leukodystrophy. And through this study, we were trying to make it very easy as much as we can for the patients and the caregivers to provide the data, this high quality data. We worked on minimizing the data collection. We also worked on trying to develop platforms that makes it easy for them to provide this data. So our goal here is to collect this data that can be used as future controls for randomized or for clinical trials that doesn't have the ability to recruit controls, and make sure that our reviewers are able to use this data, which will help and also will promote the drug delivery and drug discovery for rare conditions. As I mentioned here, there's a lot of natural history studies that go and collect a lot of data from their patients and from their caregivers, and it's very burdensome. But what we're interested in looking at a small set of data, but this can be compared to what's being looked at as an endpoint in a clinical trial. And what's also important is that if you're looking at a treatment, the treatment is going to be targeting cohorts that can benefit from the treatment. So even though there might not be treatments in the market right now, we would like as much as we can to recruit in the study the patients that in the future might be receiving a treatment. So that's why we are working hard with Maria and other patient groups to reach out to patients and their caregivers with at different disease stages, so they can inform the study and also inform our reviewers and decision makers. And with that, thank you so much, and I'll turn it back to you, Maria.
Hi, everyone. I will pop in here. My name's Josie. I'm the research coordinator with the home study. So I work with NORD, and I'm kind of the liaison between NORD and our MLD family. So this has been a really exciting time for us to be able to all connect together. I was sitting back as Hussein was talking and thinking, gosh, how rare is it to have people from all of these different, points of entry into this research space for rare diseases. Really amazing to have Hussein from the FDA and have that expertise, and then Maria as just a really strong advocate in the MLD community. And then to even have Lexi on here, who's not only a gracious participant of the study, but also, caring full time for her son Axel, and caring for him quite wonderfully, I might say. And also she is still just, sharing her heart and advocacy as well in the MLD community. So anyway, this is just a really neat and rare opportunity. So, but that's who I am. I work with NORD. I'm kind of the face of the home study. So if you decide to participate in the study, I'm the person that you'd be meeting to, talking with, emailing with, all of that sort of thing. So, so I want to introduce Lexi as I just did. As I said, we are very grateful for her eager participation in the study. So, but we want you to hear from her, not just us. So I'll just kind of ask her a few questions and just let her give her take on the study so far. So Lexi, why don't you just start by sharing with us why you decided to participate in the home study?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of after coming to terms with what our new life was and kind of how to manage it and stuff like that, I decided that I just needed to get as involved in MLD research and making a change for the MLD community for Axel. So that's kind of where I was like, you know, this is a perfect opportunity. It was fairly new to us and stuff like that at the time. I realized that nothing is going to change regarding the lack of knowledge on MLD unless we, the parents and caregivers, voice what's really going on and happening behind closed doors. You know, there's doctors who have their own studies going on, which are great, but they only see the kids maybe a couple times a month, if that really. So we're really the ones trucking through from like the day-to-day lifestyle with MLD. So instead of hiding behind closed doors, I'm kind of here to kick the door open and be like, this is what's going on. And, you know, try to give as much research as possible to just show everyone how hard this is and make any changes possible for anyone living with MLD.
Awesome. Thanks. So one of the things that we're really excited about with the home study is to not only be working directly with the FDA toward building a database that can, that's really, it's designed to mirror randomized clinical trials. That's, you know, one of the things that we're doing to kind of move this research forward. But one of the other things that we're really excited about is working directly and collaboratively with families, you know, throughout the design, you know, the initial discussions and design of the study. We gathered patient and family input throughout the whole process so that we could ensure that it's feasible for families to participate. You're not having to travel across the country. We're not asking for, you know, tons of time that you don't have to give. So could you talk a little bit about, you know, how that's going for you? Were all of those efforts on our end, are they successful? What does that time commitment look like? You know, you're the one actually participating. So what does that time commitment actually look like for participating in the study?
Yeah, the time commitment is very minimal, honestly. It's probably one of like the easier things that we're doing through our day-to-day. The phone calls are simple. The questions are really similar to ones that doctors ask as well. I like that there is like a little journal section where you can add any extra notes and stuff that you want to share. But other than that, yeah, I feel like it really takes up hardly any time for as big as a difference that I feel like this is going to make. I think it's definitely worth the little bit of time that we have to put in.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. So you probably alluded to this a little bit, but what do you hope to see kind of big picture change as a result of the study?
Yeah, with the study being done, I hope that we can truly find a better care plan for MLD patients, and then share that plan everywhere. Just from our experience, like we do have a specialist team out in Pittsburgh, but we're in Illinois and our local team have no sort of knowledge at all working with an MLD patient. So that's definitely difficult. So, you know, just being able to share more information with doctors that can help more patients so you don't have to travel across the country to get care, and that you, I don't know, aren't feeling like you don't really have help from a medical field standpoint and stuff. Because I have no medical knowledge at all until Axel's diagnosis. It's all been kind of like self-taught. So I really had no idea what I was getting into, and just having a doctor's local that also didn't know what you were getting into, it was really hard. So I'm just hoping to educate more people and find better care plans and try to make MLD lives a little bit easier.
Great. And now, Lexi, we also, you're using our mobile application called the Shape app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is an application that's a brand new app that we're developing as a way for patients and caregivers, parents to be able to enter information. So not only some of the specific endpoints for the study, but even if there's an illness, or let's say a child needs to have seizure meds changed, and so they go to their doctor for that sort of thing, or even if they just have, did I say well visit? So like a well visit, or even like a hospitalization. So it's a way to not only collect the specific information that we need from the study, but also some of the periphery information that is important and impacts kind of the day-to-day life. So what's your experience so far with our Shape app?
It's fairly easy to use. I like that you can just add in as much information as you wanted, because I know like with the questions on the surveys, they're a little more detailed per certain things, but with the Shape app, you can just add any sort of information that you feel is important to share with the study.
Great. And the nice thing too about having the mobile application style is it makes it easy to enter stuff wherever you are. So while you're sitting at the doctor's office, waiting for them to give you your discharge paperwork or whatever, you can just be entering it right there. So it was really designed to be something that easy to use, user-friendly, you can kind of take it anywhere. So, well, thank you so much, Lexi, for sharing your experience. We really appreciate it. So I think at this point, we are really interested to hear what questions you all have for us about the study. So we'll open it up for questions. We're going to have one of our team members kind of filtering them through to us from the Facebook Live. So you can comment below in the Facebook Live comments. So as we're waiting for some questions to filter through, we can talk a little bit about one of the most common questions that we get, which is, I'm already involved in another natural history study. Can I be a part of this one? And the answer to that is yes. We do not do research in a silo. There are lots of people, lots of groups, lots of experts that are doing research for MLD and for other rare diseases. And the more that you are able to contribute, within, what's reasonable for you and your time commitment, it is certainly open to everyone. And we do encourage you to contribute your data to multiple natural history studies. Each natural history study might have a different focus. Like, for example, we are working directly with the FDA for this purpose of getting FDA approved therapeutic treatments for MLD. And as Hussein said, our goal is not to collect all of the data about MLD. Our goal is to collect the data that we need for this purpose, for therapeutic treatment. Somebody else's natural history study, they might be trying to get a really comprehensive view on just everything related to MLD. So yes, it is open. Yes, we encourage you to participate in multiple natural history studies. Similarly, another frequent question that we get is people say, well, I'm involved in a clinical trial, or my child is involved in a clinical trial. They've already received treatment. They have, they're displaying minimal signs. Sometimes we have siblings that, maybe the older sibling was, diagnosed too late to receive a clinical trial medication. But then the younger sibling was tested early and started on it. And so even if they're not showing symptoms, if they have an MLD diagnosis, they are more than welcome to be in the study. So no matter where you are on your disease progression timeline, whether or not your child or loved one has had any treatment, you are more than welcome to participate, and we encourage you to participate. All right, so we're looking through some questions. What is the difference between a patient registry and a natural history study? Maria or Hussein, do one of you want to take this one?
I'm happy to answer this. So the study that we are doing, it is very confusing because there's the home study, which is a partnership with NORD and the FDA, and that is being piloted by the FDA and NORD. That's a research study, kind of a natural history, if you will. What the registry is simply data that's owned by the patient community. And our registry is actually pretty modest in terms of we just want to be able to know where people are geographically. We want to know the age of their affected loved ones. We want to know the doctors that they work with, whether they have Medicaid or not. So for us, the contact registry is really just kind of almost a system to know where people are and to communicate with them. The registry can be used for research projects. We might do a study using the data and names from the registry, but this way we're collecting data that's secured, ethically managed. So it's not like an Excel spreadsheet in someone's desk drawer, and that data belongs to the community. So no matter what happens to me, this data will exist in perpetuity in terms of, like, we now currently in our contact registry or community survey have 90 patients from all over the world. And so when we get contacted, let's say by a group in England that's trying to get gene therapy approved in England, and they need to know all the names of the MLD patients in England, well, we are because of our contact registry, we're literally the only organization in the world that can provide that information. As you can imagine, doctors cannot share the names of patients. Clinical trials run by companies cannot share the names of patients, but we, through the community, can identify, families that will be crucial for testifying to getting regulatory approval in their home country. So it is confusing. There's a lot of us, but the community survey being run by Cure MLD belongs to the whole community and can be used for any project. And the natural history is usually being run by scientists and doctors. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Maria. Hussein, do you want to talk a little bit about another question that we've got, which is, what do we do with this data at the end of the study?
Sure, Josie. Yeah, so the data that is being collected through the study is going to be housed in the NORD database. Future scientists or researchers who are interested to learn more about the disease and its progression, or leverage this data for future studies, they are welcome to contact NORD and see how they can obtain this data and have access to it. So it's not going to be, we're not going to take this data away and hide it, so other people can also benefit from it. But the immediate goal of this data is to, first of all, are we able to leverage the natural history studies to work as an external control, or not, if not completely replace controls, can we, for example, reduce the control group in a study? So are we able to collect the data that's usually collected in a clinical trial through this natural history study design? So that's the first goal, is to explore the data, investigate the data, and see whether we are able to achieve this goal or not. The second thing is to use the data to model the disease progression. So if a sponsor comes and he's trying to show us that a treatment is effective for patients, then we can compare the changes or the effect of the treatment on the patients, compare this to the data collected from natural history study, and be able to make an informed decision, and also reduce the burden on the patients who have to enroll in this clinical trial as a control patients. And we know how hard this is, and it's not an easy decision to make for families of patients who are looking for a cure wouldn't want to be part of a control arm that doesn't get the treatment itself. So these are like the two immediate goals of the data is to, as I mentioned, confirm the proof of concept here that this is a viable option, a viable way of collecting data for controls, and also inform our reviewers and decision makers about the disease progression and how they can compare data collected for treatment to data from standard of care for MLD patients.
Thanks, Hussein.
And Josie, if I think also another thing, actually a couple of points. A question here is like how long people are enrolled in the home study. Our hope is to have them enrolled for a year, to be able to follow them for a year, which is similar somewhat to a clinical trial compared to a registry, for example, that you normally are enrolled in a registry for a longer period of time. You are followed for a longer period of time, which is not the case for the natural history study, or this specific natural history study, if I say. Another question, can you enroll in the home study, but enroll in other studies? I think you mentioned that, Josie, and I think there are no conflict here. You are able to do this. So that also this does not limit your participation in other activities. And I would just want to mention that Josie and Nord have done a great effort in making the data collection as easy as possible, leveraging the video visits and making it very easy for participants and their caregivers to provide the data. That's something that's really unique and groundbreaking. So thank you so much for that, Josie.
Yes, and just to, I think, expand a little bit on, what Hussein said about, again, what we're using this data for, and looking at, disease progression and that sort of thing. As we have already been kind of looking at the data that we have to date and thinking about next steps and where we need to go from here. As we mentioned, as long as your child or loved one has an MLD diagnosis, they are more than welcome to enroll, and we are thrilled to have your participation. Like we said, regardless of any other studies that you're in and interventional trials. But one thing that we would encourage, one thing that's that we don't have as much in the database are children that are, or even I guess older MLD patients that are early in that diagnosis phase. We have a lot of people that, and we know why that is, right? Being diagnosed with MLD is an incredibly challenging, life-altering event. And so we know that a lot of families, it takes some time to work through that process and what that's going to mean for you and your family. So, but as Lexi alluded to, the lift for participating in this study is very minimal, and the potential impact for future MLD patients has the potential to be a really positive, long-lasting impact. So we would encourage, if you or if your loved one has been recently diagnosed with MLD and you're, really, considering whether or not you have the space to participate in something like this, we would just really encourage you to consider the home study. And certainly if you have any questions whatsoever, you can reach out to us and, we could provide you any information. Maria, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
So here I am. So it's very important for the reviewers at FDA to understand what the disease does as it's in its early progression. And this is one of the huge challenges we're facing, because for them to understand if a drug is working, they need to understand what the disease does to patients in real time. So they need to understand what percentage of patients, or how children start to lose the ability to walk, how patients experience loss of speech, what happens as the disease progresses in that early period, which is one of the most challenging parts about this, because we have newly diagnosed families who are really, as Josie said, so traumatized and so lost, and we're asking them to describe in real time, or at least in close retrospective time, what the FDA, what this disease has done to their families and to their loved ones. This is exceedingly important. I've had presentations with the FDA, and the reviewers need to ask us what percentage of children have this experience. At what point do they lose the ability to walk? At what point do they need a feeding tube? At what point do they need respiratory intervention? They need to understand these things in order to have a measuring stick, if you will, that enzyme replacement therapy or gene therapy is working. They absolutely need to understand it. They need to have a movie with as much detail as possible. And this is why this is so challenging, but this is so important for the regulators and the incredible people at CBER and FDA who want, at only 5% of rare diseases have an approved therapy. And the reason that is true is not because the FDA is mean and they don't want to approve things. It's just that it's really hard to prove a therapy is safe and having an impact. It's really, really hard for FDA to see data that's safe, that is good for the patient community. So that's why we're asking you to do this. This is why Nord and Hussein are here today working with us, doing this remarkable effort to outreach to the patient community, to work with FDA and Nord to get them the data they need so they can get us the therapies and cures we need for our patients and loved ones.
And Maria or Hussein, why is it important to see this data in real time versus looking at it retrospectively?
I can take that one. So it's very important to look at the data real time, because there's a lot of confounding that happens when you look at retrospective data. Sometimes standard of care could change. Sometimes you might have people getting things from other countries, or you have someone who's not following the treatment course that's being used in that time. So to be able to take a set of data and aggregate it together and compare what's happening to this group of people to a group of patients that are enrolled in a clinical trial, you want to make sure that this group of people, you are able to compare the same patients and the treatment they're receiving to the group of people that are receiving the standard of care. And to be able to do this, it's very important that you are doing this in real time, capturing the information as they happen. You also know you don't deal with any issues that are known recall issues or things like this, which is part of us being human, is that we don't really recall things very accurately. So it's very important that we are able to follow as much as we can, as Maria mentioned, the data in real time to minimize any questions or confounding that can come up from relying on retrospective data. And we know very, very well that it's not easy, as Josie mentioned, especially for newly diagnosed patients. It's not easy for them to, at this point, to come and join a study. That's why we are doing everything in our power to minimize and lessen the burden on them and only get the information that's really critical for this study, either by using the mobile app or the Nord platform or the work that Josie is doing in the video visits to make the process as easy as possible for them. And as Lexi mentioned, the time commitment is really small. So we again urge everyone to consider joining the study if they think that they fit into the study. And if not, they can just, if they're not sure, they can always reach out and we can answer any questions they might have.
Thanks, Hussein. That was a great explanation there. So in terms of reaching out, if you do have any questions, so we have a couple of options. So you can email us, mld@rarediseases.org. So that's our general email address if you have any questions whatsoever. If you're looking to join the study, we will have links put on the Cure MLD page. Additionally, if you just go to rarediseases.org, so that's the general NORD. So this study is done, it's done through NORD with support and funding with the FDA. And Cure MLD and Maria have been a wonderful partner with us to help get the word out and that sort of thing. So, but it's through NORD's website, rarediseases.org. And if in the search bar, if you just type MLD, it'll bring up all of the MLD information and you'll see links to the home study. So like I said, we will post those links on the Cure MLD page. You can email us at mld@rarediseases.org or just visit the NORD website. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment, but we are so appreciative of everyone's time. Let's give a little shout out to Axel for getting on camera for us today. Hi, Axel. Are you going to give us another smile? Lexi says that Axel loves to FaceTime and be on camera.
We love you, Axel.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi, buddy. There's a good smile for everybody.
We should do a show just with Axel. I
Yes.
think Axel and Lexi should have their own Facebook Live show. I think that's what we're going to work on next at Cure MLD.
He would love that. He's always the smart.
That's amazing. That's just thanks everyone for your participation. A huge thank you to Lexi and Axel, who are our superstars, for really, highlighting how beautiful and amazing and brave our families are. Thank you to Hussein for his work. This is a big ask. We totally get it, but it's so important for our community. It's so important for FDA. FDA is an amazing organization of people who are passionate and devoted to changing the lives of children. No one will be happier when there is an approved therapy than our partners and friends at the FDA and NORD. So help us get to that goal. And thank you, everyone. So thanks, Josie, for organizing this.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you.
Melanie, for your great work, quietly managing things behind the scenes, making us all look good.
All right. Enjoy your holiday weekend.
Have a wonderful holiday, everyone. Be safe.